Good morning. My name is Mark Hopkins, and I'm serving as worship associate today. Just for a bit of context, especially for those with low vision, I'm a white man. When I fill out surveys that ask for age, I'm and over. I mean, come on, 40 to 50, 50 to 60, 60 to 70. Give me a range, to 210, I don't know. I'm 73. I use the pronouns he and him. I'm average height, but above average weight. I'm transitioning from brown hair with gray streaks to gray hair with a few brown streaks. Same for my closely trimmed beard. I'm on our church's board of trustees, and I'm a member of the Unitarian Universalist Buddhist Fellowship. We offer a warm welcome to everyone to our spiritual home, the Unitarian Universalist Church of Tarpon Springs. We are a community in relationship to promote spiritual growth, social justice, and the arts through a framework and vision of liberal religion. This is an active church, and everyone's invited to participate in all of our activities. To learn more about our events, check our church calendar on our website, uutarpon.org, or we'll be happy to talk to you during the coffee hour. For those present in the building, we have connection cards available in the pews near the hymnals. If you fill one out, we'll be able to stay in touch with you. There are small cards to write any joys or sorrows you would like to share to be read at the end of our time together today. Lay-led services are a time-honored tradition in our heritage, and today we have the privilege of having Elaine Brooks lead our service. Elaine is an actively engaged member of this church. She was on our search committee for our new minister, and she'll serve on the transition team as our new minister, Pastor Patty, moves into the pulpit in September. Elaine has provided for members of our congregation a poetry workshop. It began with an intensive 8-week program and now continues once a month. She also provides supervision for poetry therapy trainees. She herself is certified in therapeutic writing. Her topic today is inviting awe, finding spiritual and emotional sustenance in difficult times. Our music will be provided by our music director, Bonnie Whitehurst. Again, welcome. We're glad you joined us.
Our first hymn is number 16 in your gray hymnal, The Lone Wild Bird. Oh, I'm sorry, number 15.
Good morning. Thank you for that introduction, Mark. And I'll just say that I use the pronouns she, her. I am a white woman, older white woman, with brown hair and brown eyes. I'm happy to be here today to share a topic that I believe can make a difference in our lives during this time. In 1956, Rachel Carson wrote a small book titled The Sense of Wonder, and she wrote this even before Silent Spring. And in it she said, "A child's world is fresh and new and beautiful, full of wonder and excitement. It is our misfortune that for most of us, that clear-eyed vision, that true instinct for what is beautiful and awe-inspiring is dimmed and even lost before we reach adulthood. If I had influence with the good fairy who is supposed to preside over the christening of all children, I should ask that her gift to each child in the world be a sense of wonder so indestructible that it would last throughout life. What is the value of preserving and strengthening this sense of awe and wonder, this recognition of something beyond the boundaries of human existence? Those who contemplate the beauty of the earth find reserves of strength that will last as long as life lasts. There is something infinitely healing in the repeated refrains of nature, the assurance that dawn comes after night, spring after winter. I wonder how many of you, as I sometimes do, wake up with a feeling of dread, wondering which of our treasured institutions will be threatened in the coming day. Do any of you reach for your phone to check the news before you're even out of bed? I won't ask you to answer that question, but I will say I am one of those people that I sometimes do that. We need something to provide us with respite and protection from the angst that is prevalent in our lives. After much research and personal exploration, I believe that inviting awe into our lives can provide us with the emotional and spiritual sustenance we seek. We might consider living by these words of Mary Oliver, who has been called the poet of awe. Still, what I want in my life is to be willing to be dazzled. And no, it's to be willing to be dazzled, to cast aside the weight of facts, and maybe even to float a little above this difficult world. This morning we will explore awe, what it is, why it's important, and how to bring it into our lives. As you listen to the music Bonnie will share with us today, pay attention to what you are experiencing. You might discover awe.
We take a moment as we enter sacred space together to light our chalice and enter into spiritual preparation. The words of the chalice lighting are by Cynthia Landrum. For the wonder and inspiration we seek from the sun and stars and all the nights of the heavens, we light this chalice. And now our covenant we shall read together. We strive to look for and encourage the best in each other as we move toward justice, peace, and love for both ourselves and for the world. And when we fall short, we will seek reconciliation and return to covenant.
And now let us sing number 123 in the Gray Hymnal, Spirit of Life, 123.
Rings
Our story today is Noticing, written by Kobe Yamada, illustrated by Elise Hurst. It's a beautiful day, isn't it? It seemed as if someone was talking to me. It's okay, I guess, I replied. Just okay, a woman sitting nearby responded. Why, we have the birds, the trees, the sky, the questions, the what ifs, and the why nots. I'd say this is indeed an exceptional day to be alive, don't you think? If you say so, I shrugged. It seemed like an ordinary day to me. Are you a painter? I asked. I like to think of myself as more of a noticer, really, she answered. I just try to make things from what I see. It is my way of appreciating and honoring them. As I looked at her canvas, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. How could someone create something so amazing? I wondered. She was definitely a painter. She looked over to me and asked, when you look up, what do you see? Clouds. You see clouds? That's all? Just clouds? The painter asked, astonished. I think so, I said, uncertain as I scanned the sky. Why? What do you see? Oh, so much, she said excitedly. It's like the whole sky is tempting me to be amazed. I see wild horses running free and upside-down castles. I see whales flying like songbirds and a dragon breathing fire. But it's not only that. I am filled with butterflies of excitement. It feels like an adventure is unfolding, and I don't want to miss any of it. I stared up, wanting to see what she saw. The more you pause and allow for the extraordinary, the painter explained, the more you find it. And often what we see depends on what we look for. Take this mountain, for instance. She gestured to the horizon. A climber might see a great challenge, a scientist might see the movement of an ancient glacier, and someone else might notice the cool breeze traveling from its snowy peaks. Though we all may look at the same thing, we don't always see it in the same way. That is true for mountains and also for people. When we look at others, we may see their faces or their clothes, she continued, but we are only seeing a tiny piece of who they really are. We often don't notice the important things like their capacity for love, what they hope for and what they dream of, or who they can become. We can often miss the most beautiful parts of them. I wondered what I wasn't noticing. I wondered what I was missing. What do you see in you? Asked the painter. I looked down at my hands, my clothes, my shoes that were a size too big so I could grow into them. Just a kid like any other kid, I suppose. But you are not like anyone else. In fact, there isn't another person exactly like you anywhere, the painter encouraged. And the amazing thing is, there never has been, and there never will be ever again. I'm not sure there is anything all that special about me, I said. Oh, but everything is special about you. There really isn't a single thing about you that isn't extraordinary, she shared enthusiastically. You are the rare and unique combination of what was and the bright possibility of what can be. And you know what? So is everyone else. Everyone shines and needs to be seen. Everyone wants to know that they matter, that there is a place for them, and that they are needed. Sure, some may hide their brilliance, but the light is in there, always flickering, and it is a beautiful thing when we can reflect it back to them. I always looked forward to my visits with the painter. I had to admit, as much as I couldn't wait to see her, I also couldn't wait to see what she saw. On one occasion, I went to find her, and she was sitting peacefully with her eyes shut. What are you doing? I asked shyly, not wanting to interrupt her. Hello, you, she smiled and waved me over. Some days I find that I can notice even more when I close my eyes, she explained. The gentle rustling of my hair, the ideas dancing in my head, the sunshine on my face, and the wonder of being alive. She invited me to close my eyes. What does home look like to you? What does kindness feel like? What does love look like? The painter asked. What does it feel like to have a friend? What does it look like to be one? One of the most important ways we see is with our imagination. So many significant things cannot be seen with your eyes, but they are very real, and it is vital that you look for and believe in them. I was filled with a feeling of calm and appreciation. It was moving and wonderful. I sat there with my eyes closed, picturing the people and places and things that meant so much to me in my life. One of the best things you can be is interested, the painter shared. When you are interested, you are curious. And when you are curious, you discover things, amazing things, about yourself and about the world. The miraculous is everywhere and in everything, waiting for us to notice it, waiting for us to appreciate it, waiting for us to love it. It's been years since that day when I first met the painter. I miss her. I wish she were still here so I could tell her what she has meant to me and how she helped me to look at everything differently. But mostly, what I wish I could say is thank you for seeing me. We don't have any children, but we could still sing Go Now in Peace and think about all the children in the world who need peace in their lives.
Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the light of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go.
Our Unitarian Universalist community and its work run on the generosity of our congregation. You may mail your offering to our website or place your offering in the collection plates as they are passed. We ask that you give as you're willing and able. Thank you.
I invite you now to take a few breaths and settle into your body, into your seat, and into this space that we share. If you are comfortable doing so, close your eyes and reflect on these words by Dana Faulds, Breath of Life. I breathe in all that is, awareness expanding to take everything in as if my heart beats the world into being. From the unnamed vastness beneath the mind, I breathe my way into wholeness and healing. Inhalation, exhalation. Each breath a yes and a letting go, a journey and a coming home. And as you reflect for a moment, think about what might you like to say yes to in your life today. And what might you like to let go of? What might be helpful to you to let go of, even briefly? And what journey are you on? Is there room for awe in that journey? And what does coming home feel like to you? And just take another couple of breaths. And if your eyes are closed, whenever you're ready, go ahead and open them. And come back to our shared space. Our reading today isn't actually a reading, it's, surprise, a poem. This is Invitation by Mary Oliver. Oh, do you have time to linger for just a little while out of your busy and very important day for the goldfinches that have gathered in a field of thistles for a musical battle? To see who can sing the highest note, or the lowest, or the most expressive of mirth, or the most tender. Their strong, blunt beaks drink the air as they strive melodiously, not for your sake, and not for mine, and not for the sake of winning, but for the sheer delight and gratitude. Believe us, they say, it is a serious thing just to be alive on this fresh morning in this broken world. I beg of you, do not walk by without pausing to attend to this rather ridiculous performance. It could mean something. It could mean everything. It could be what the poet Rilke meant when he wrote, "You must change your life." I have to say the hardest part of putting this service together was leaving things out, because I have done so much research on this topic and I wanted to include so much. We'd be here all day, so I did my best to get the highlights. Several years ago, my grandson, who was 8 at the time, asked me a question that stunned me. He asked, "Did you ever love something and not know why?" And I was like, wait a minute. My first thought was, how did an 8-year-old come up with this question? And I had no idea how to respond. How might you have responded to that question? Would that have stumped you for a moment? I was like, really? You're 8. You're not supposed to be having these thoughts. I thought back to a time when I was at the Metropolitan Museum of Art and happened to see a work by Jackson Pollock. I had not thought of his work as real art, but this piece touched something deep in my being, and I couldn't say why. I now believe that my grandson had described awe and that I had experienced it in that moment. I became interested in the topic of awe last year when I heard an interview with Dr. Dacher Keltner, who was discussing his research. Since then, I've gone down numerous rabbit holes, watched more interviews with Dr. Keltner than I can count. I actually think I have a bit of a crush on him. Read articles and books on the topic. It's helpful to have awareness of the research. We know when we have an experience of awe, but knowing the research that is behind it is helpful and interesting. More importantly, I've paid attention to and sought out my own experiences of awe. Because it has made a difference in my life, it feels important to share this topic with you, hoping that it will make a difference in your lives too. The study of awe is still in its infancy. Dr. Keltner initially started working on the study of positive emotions, and when he did, awe wasn't even on the list. And it's really funny that he started working on positive emotions, because up until that time, all they researched was negative emotions. Then in 2003, he and a colleague published an article, Approaching Awe, a moral, spiritual, and aesthetic emotion, and research into awe began, and it has taken off. Let me ask you, what do you think awe is? Anybody? It's hard to put into words, isn't it? Wonder. Unexpected. Uplifting. Absolutely. Inspiring. All those things. And it's defined in different ways, but basically as a heightened emotional state characterized by feelings of wonder and astonishment. And you can find, I don't know how many different definitions, but that's basic. It can be triggered by seeing the Grand Canyon or witnessing an act of kindness. Awe can connect us to something greater than ourselves, however we define that. The ancient Greek philosopher Protagoras said that Zeus gave us 2 unique qualities to help ensure our survival and flourishing: a sense of justice and a capacity for reverence or awe. And it's interesting to reflect on the relationship between the two. Initially, awe was regarded as an experience that had to be big, fleeting, and rare. Research has since shown even modest day-to-day experiences, such as a sunrise or a favorite song, can elicit awe. The fact that it doesn't have to be big means it's accessible to all of us. When we experience awe, we are amazed, astonished, blown away, and become more curious, which is where wonder comes in. We may experience goosebumps, tears, warmth in the chest, a sense of being humble and small, and we may feel a sense of reverence. 3,000 people in 26 countries, here's some of the research, were asked for personal stories of awe. These responses were classified into what has been named the 8 wonders of life. What do you think was mentioned most by people? Nature. Milky Way. Childbirth. Sunset. Those are all there, but what was number one, what more people mentioned, we are most likely to feel awed by other people's courage, kindness, strength, or overcoming. The fact that it was number one gives me hope. And who do you think of when you think of moral beauty? Who comes to your mind? When you think of courage, kindness? Mothers. Joe Biden. Yeah, politics has to come into this, right? Absolutely. Kamala Harris. I encourage you to spend some time thinking about who in your life and who in the world represents moral beauty for you. Don't forget to think about the people sitting in this room with us. Number two, I just love what they named this. It's called collective effervescence. And that sounds like something we should put in a bottle and drink, right? When people feel like they are crackling with a life force that merges them into a collective self. It's the waves that happen at sports events, political rallies, concerts, and graduations. And I think we are seeing collective effervescence right now since we have a new presidential candidate. It feels like it's everywhere, which is kind of a relief. But there is a dark side to the collective effervescence that's related to awe. Awe can motivate alienated individuals to become impassioned members of fringe groups and cults. We see this happening now, and we've seen it in history. What feels important to remember is that people join fringe groups or cults because they feel alienated. And what can we do to decrease this sense of alienation? Number three is nature. Along with the beauty we find in nature, disasters were mentioned as experiences that elicited awe. Number four is music. It's a human universal to get the chills or tear up when we're moved by a piece of music or a song. And Bonnie, I bet that you could share a lot of experiences that you've had that have been awesome in playing music or listening to it. I love this quote by Plato. Music gives a soul to the universe, wings to the mind, flight to the imagination, and life to everything. When we hear or make music we love, we release the hormones dopamine and serotonin, which make us feel good. Number five is visual design. Buildings, paintings, for example. And can you think of a time when you stood in front of a piece of art or a photograph or a building that evoked awe? Does anyone have a building that has evoked awe in you?
The Guggenheim Museum.
The Guggenheim?
This building here.
This building?
The Woolworth Building in New York City.
Ah. I hadn't thought about buildings inspiring awe before, but what came to me was when I stood in front of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. The simplicity of that was awe-inspiring. And it was like a twofer because it inspired the moral beauty of the people who had given their lives, whose names were on that. Number six, spiritual and religious experiences. It made the list. I was surprised it was as number six. And we're in an era of rising religious homelessness, and at the same time, people are becoming deeply spiritual. And there are many stories of both religious and spiritual experiences in the book. And I forgot to mention, this is the book that Dr. Keltner wrote. It's Awe, the New Science of Everyday Wonder and How It Can Transform Your Life. And I usually stray away from books that tell me how they're going to transform my life, but I really do think there is something to this. Number seven is stories of life and death, childbirth, and also being in the presence of the end of a person's life. And Decker Keltner wrote this book earlier than he had planned on. He was doing the research, but he was present at his brother's death, and they were very close. And he experienced, and he writes very movingly about the awe that he experienced. And what is interesting to me is that in every interview I have watched, everybody asks him about that experience. That is the thing that everybody wants to know about, the awe that he felt at his brother's death. Number 8 is big ideas or epiphanies. When we suddenly understand essential truths about life, whether they're scientific, philosophical, mathematical, or personal. And how many of you have had those moments, those epiphanies, when you've been trying to solve a problem, been trying to figure something out, and it's just not coming. And you finally say, I'm done, I give up, I'm not even gonna try anymore. And then several days later, maybe a week later, you're not even thinking about it, and it's like it hits you like a ton of bricks. The answer is there. Those moments are really, I don't know how they happen, but I'm glad that they do. How many of you have had that experience? I bet you've had it and you haven't really been aware that that's what was happening. I wish there was time to hear some of your experiences, so I hope that during coffee, you'll share an experience with someone, and I'd certainly be happy to be that someone. So why awe? Awe is a pathway for healing, especially nature and music. The evidence supporting the link between spending time outdoors experiencing awe and lower stress levels has become so persuasive that many physicians have begun to prescribe time in nature the way one might typically prescribe a new medication. Has anybody here received a prescription for going outdoors and finding awe? But how many of you, when feeling stressed, head outdoors? It's almost an intuitive thing that we do, so we can write our own prescriptions. It's how we find what is sacred for us, what touches us deeply and instills a sense of reverence, creating oneness with something bigger than we are. Awe is often an individual experience, and it can be transformative. And if awe can transform us, it can also change how we relate to the world. And we can do that through several of our UU values of equity, justice, interconnectedness, and generosity. Awe takes us out of our heads for a time and frees us from the nagging, neurotic voice of the self. As UUs, we are thinkers. And I don't know about you, but I spend way too much time in my head. Experiences of awe give us a break from ourselves. A couple of the other benefits, and there's a lot more, but of what happens when we experience awe is it calms our nervous system. It activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest part of the sympathetic nervous system. And this has all been researched, and there's a lot of the research in the book. It reduces inflammation in the immune system, and the brain releases oxytocin, which is the love hormone that promotes trust and bonding, and it releases dopamine, which is associated with exploration and curiosity. What are some ways to bring more awe into our lives? And I hope now that you've heard some of the benefits, you might be wanting to do that. Be present and intentional. Have an awe mindset. Stop, pause, and open your mind to what's in front of you. And we heard that in today's story, and we heard it in the poem. If we are always walking around in our heads, thinking about what's for dinner, our grocery list, the fight we had with our significant other the night before, or looking at our phones, we are going to miss opportunities for awe. Ask yourself, as Rachel Carson did, what if I had never seen this before? What if I knew I would never see it again? This can lead to the ordinary becoming extraordinary, valuing something not for what it can do, but simply because it is. Be curious and find what brings you awe. We are not all going to have the same awe experiences, There are some that we probably do, like the solar eclipse, that's kind of a universal one, but it's going to be individual. When you experience awe, don't rush. Savor the experience. Relive a moment of awe. Neuroscience has discovered that when we think about an experience, our brains react in an almost identical way as if we were living that experience. That's pretty cool. One way to do that is to write about it. You might think about keeping an awe journal and write your experiences, and then when you go and read about them, you can relive it. And share your experiences of awe. And I'd like to share a few of my own. The first one is an everyday experience of awe. It's clouds. And we saw that in the story. But I have been fascinated with the clouds that I see, especially on my walks on the causeway, but many different places. The ancient Greeks believed that the clouds were a group of beautiful women who brought pitchers of water up to the heavens, and when they overflowed, the water would cascade down, nourishing the earth. But there's also the scientific perspective that is kind of awesome. And I had read that a cumulus cloud weighs between 1 million and 1,400,000,000 pounds. And I thought that can't possibly be true. How can these things that are hanging up in the sky, looking very light and fluffy, Greg, you probably know this. So I had to go and validate it. And I went to the National Weather Service website, and it is indeed true. So I am even more in awe of clouds now. This one, I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about it, but we think of awe as experiences that happen to us. And this was one that happened to me on one of my walks on the causeway. This was a loon that was on the causeway, and I thought, wait, this is Florida. What is a loon doing here? And yeah, that was my expression too, like, wait a minute, how could this loon possibly be in Florida? And I ended up calling a bird rescue, and somebody came and said, sometimes they fly here from Wisconsin. So I guess they are the proverbial snowbirds. I mean, had to say it, right? But I was like, I wasn't going to talk about it, and then I had to because it was just such an experience. The next one is an experience that demonstrates one of the benefits of awe. On Saturday, I had a really challenging day, and I was still upset when I went on my walk on Sunday. And as I was on my way, this is on the causeway, everything happens for me on the causeway. As I was on my way back to my car, I just happened to look over to the right, and I said, what? I said, I don't see these birds every morning. I said, that looks like an eagle. And I went over, and I still get choked up when I think about this because it was so, mattered so much. It was a juvenile eagle, and I spent a good half hour. There's one more picture of it too, I think.
This is the second.
Oh, that's the second one, okay. Yeah, okay. I spent a half an hour watching it have its breakfast and watching it watch me. But the thing that truly amazed me was nobody else came. I was there with this eagle. One of the things that can happen with awe is you lose time. Time kind of gets suspended. I have no idea how long I was with that eagle, but it changed me. I was out of my head, and by the time it flew off, I'd kind of gotten out of my head and recalibrated my emotions. So it's a good demonstration of one of those benefits of awe. The last experience shows how we can relive moments of awe when we write about them. This took place back in 1998, and I actually wrote a poem about it.
Is this supposed to be?
No, not yet. That's at the very end. Thank you. Sorry. So I titled this Wild. So maybe you could be in this poem with me. You could experience some of what I experienced. While the old dog sleeps, Quietly, I leave the comfort of my bed. I do not want to disturb the old dog lying by my side or the young pup dreaming downstairs. The comet Temple Tuttle is scheduled to scatter its debris, creating a cosmic celebration for a party of one. Bracing myself, I grab a cup of coffee and step into the cold November air. The night is moonless, the sky clear. I quickly find the only constellation I know and renew an old promise to learn where Orion and Libra and Cassiopeia make their beds. The first star hurls itself across the sky in a violet flash. Venus watches as 1,000,000 mystical spheres stream through the night. Astronomers proclaim this a celestial house cleaning, but I do not see particles of galactic dust being swept through the universe and carelessly tossed aside. Shivering in my chair, I am witness to a sacred dance, reveling in the abundance of the universe. I have counted on the stars to guide me, to wish on, to tell me what the future will bring. But I have waited until now for them to fill my heart with magic and show me God. As darkness recedes, I discover that day does not break, but gently and quietly rises from sleep, just as I did only an hour ago. When the last star has vanished, I return to the house where the old dog still sleeps and the young pup still dreams. Carol, now we can do that. Experiences of awe can feel like magic, so I encourage you to look at this quote and take it with you and go seek some experiences of awe. And in the social hall, there are some little cards that have some prompts maybe that you can take with you to remind you to have experiences of awe.
Our final hymn is number 1051 in the Teal Hymn Book. 1051, We Are. We will repeat the first section and the last section. Otherwise, we'll sing it all the way through. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage and fathers of time. We are daughters of dust and the sons of great vision. We're sisters of mercy and brothers of love. We are lovers of life and the builders of nations. We're seekers of truth and keepers of faith. We are makers of peace and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are.
Our closing words are a poem by Wendell Berry. When despair for the world grows in me, and I wake in the night at the least sound, in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water, and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting with their light. For a time, I rest in the grace of the world and am free.
Our chalice ritual comes in two parts, bookends to our service. At the beginning, we had an opportunity for spiritual preparation. Now, as we close, it provides an opportunity to gather our thoughts about the merits and benefits that you'd like to take with us as we leave this space. The Chalice Extinguishing by Marjorie Newland Learning, remembering that the universe is larger. Remember that the universe is so much larger than our ability to comprehend. Let us go forth from this time together with the resolve to stop trying to reduce the incomprehensible to our own petty expectations, so that wonder, that sense of what is sacred, can find space to open our minds and illumine our lives.